Alrighty, welcome everybody to this special episode of Brownsville Tech Live. This is SpaceX's Starship pre-launch party, and tonight I've got a special co-host. His name is Ramiro, and he is on with me. He is a SpaceX enthusiast. He's been working with me for months, planning this launch party. And Ramiro, welcome once again.
Hey Daniel, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. We finally got to this point. All those naysayers that for years had been saying that nothing would ever happen out of Boca Chica Beach are about to eat crow tomorrow. So it's a pretty exciting time, don't you agree?
Yes, it is. I kind of I didn't since yesterday. It was just kind of like what Elon Musk said a few days ago that the closer the closer it gets to launch date, his stomach starts to twist. So I try not to think about it much. I was like, just take a deep breath and yes, get excited about it. Think about you know, read about the latest update, but try not to get too antsy about it. But it's hard not to get excited, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is very hard not to get excited. I mean, we've had our ups and downs. The FAA was lurking around. Would they or would not they give the okay for the launch? And on Friday, they not only gave the okay, but they gave a resounding okay, and that includes a designated spaceport for 5 years. That means they don't have to go back to the well each and every time they want to launch a rocket. They are good for the next 5 years.
That is awesome. So
Yeah.
that's what can you go into more details about that? 'Cause I read about the 5 year. What does that mean?
Well, what that means
You
basically right now is as they start building these prototypes here at Boca Chica, and they're ready to test and launch, they won't have to get FAA clearance or the OK any longer. Of course, the FAA is still going to be lurking behind the scenes, making sure that that 79 list of environmental concerns continues to be followed. I mean, rightfully so, right? But they won't have to literally expect the FAA to grant them a license each and every time, and that's the good thing. So
Oh, okay. So we're good to go for the proposed three test
yeah,
launches.
yeah, yeah.
So this is the first stage of the three, correct?
Correct, correct. And as everybody out there, we have our special SpaceX Starship screen, and we've got our launch countdown, which right now it is 11 and 13 minutes before the start of um, of the launch, which is scheduled for 6:15 a.m. Central Time. So, in addition, we've got several webcams out there that we're monitoring. There are some that are stationed right now on South Padre Island. There are some in Port Isabel. And we've even got our own webcam here in Brownsville. It's the Ogre Cam, as it's been called, here in Brownsville, looking and pointing to Boca Chica Beach. Even the ogres in the swamp have the technical capability.
We have ogres in Brownsville?
Well, believe it or not, a few of our politicians believe that we are ogres.
Oh wow. And I wonder would that be like over there to the west of the expressway, like in the
I think they meant District 1.
okay. I thought you were talking about like over there by Porter Zoo, and
No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Anybody that's not an elite is considered an ogre these days. So, we just had to
oh yeah.
we just
Yeah.
had to prove that the ogres have power. Quite a bit
Yes, they
taller.
do. There's and they're not as poor as you hear a lot of those politicians say, you
I
know,
know.
especially on La Famosa Southmost, right?
You'd be surprised. That's why they videotape everything during the Lapitada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have the 17% property tax hikes down there in the Southmost area, but they can
All
afford
right.
it. So
We're not going to talk about politics today. We just
yeah,
had to
so
we
but
just had to
yeah,
throw that in.
so
Yeah.
I can't see anything else on here. I don't know
Well,
if you have to.
one of the things that oh, sorry about that. Did you let me see here. Give me 1 second. I think I know what you're telling me. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot to turn on the camera for you, the view. But anyway,
Oh, look at that. Wow, Ogre Cam's looking great.
yeah, I'm telling you, look at that. Man, it's one of the best cameras out there, nice and clear, you know. It
Yeah.
beats some of those fancy ones down on the island, that's for sure.
And for the viewers, the Ogre Cam there is on the bottom right.
Yes, it's Live Cam 4, you
Oh, that
know.
looks great.
Yeah, it really does, man. It really looks super, you know. It really looks super. I'm going to restart my launch countdown. It seemed to have paused there, so let me go ahead and do that real quick.
Uh-huh.
There we go.
So we have the three stages of the proposed uh the research and development part of Starship. And so we have a 5 year the FAA granted a 5 year license. So what else do you think that includes? Will
Well,
that mean that we could possibly have a would that include other than further testing?
well, let's focus first on the actual test flight tomorrow, and then we'll go through some of the components of the Starship system, including the lunar component. So, for the viewers out there, let's go ahead and first start with the test flight. So, I'm going to go ahead and pop that up on the screen. So, basically, what you have here is the Starship test flight plan tomorrow. And basically it's going to launch out of Starbase right here, as you can see. Here's the launch pad, and it's got the little arms, and that stage is actually going to launch, that in its entirety. And then once it reaches a certain point, and by the way, this is the largest rocket known to man. If we look at, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can find. Give me 1 second. I thought I had it here.
And it's a little bit taller than the Saturn V, right?
Yeah, in fact, that's what I was going to get to. Let me do a. Let me find that
It's
graphic.
over what a little over 400 feet tall.
Something like that. Let me go ahead and pull that up real quick. Give me a second. Give
Uh-huh.
me a second here. I will pull that up. I thought I had it on my screen. But basically, it is the tallest rocket known to man. Nothing up to this point can match it. It's got 33 Raptor engines. The Saturn V, I believe, had maybe four F5 engines, I think. That
Uh-huh.
was what I believe. Let me get there. Here we
And
go.
also the width of Starship, it is a little over 33 feet wide,
Right. Let
and
let me
that
go
is
ahead.
way.
Yeah, let me go ahead and get that on the screen here. Give me a second. There we go. So basically, what we have in front of us is the launch systems up to this point that have been built. And of course, the average male in the US is about 5 feet and 9 inches. They had to put that, I don't know why. But anyway, the New Shepard 1, which is that Blue Origins or is that Jeff Bezos's ship? That only stands at about 65 feet. Then the second one tallest is the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. You know, the one that is used today to launch Russian astronauts up to the space station. That's about
Uh-huh.
162 feet. Then the Falcon 9 towers at about 230 feet. And then the Saturn V towered at about 365 feet. Now, surprisingly, the next lunar rocket that is supposed to reach the moon actually is shorter than the Saturn V, and that is basically 322 feet. And towering above all of them is Starship, which is close to 400 feet. It is 394 feet in total. So it is the largest rocket, not only in height, but also in thrust. It is powered by 33 Raptor engines, which is pretty powerful, configuration. One of the
Wow.
things, real quick, let me talk a little bit about the Raptor engine. That's a picture of the Raptor engine right now. And there's a diagram here. There's a new version of the Raptor engine. It's called the Raptor 2. And I think that's what's going to be on this Starship prototype. And basically, the difference between this engine and the Merlin engines that are installed on the Falcon 9 is that just like the Merlin, this uses liquid oxygen LOX, but unlike Falcon 9 and the Merlin, this uses liquid methane as a combination with LOX. The other one on the Falcon 9, the Merlin engines, they use RP1, which is a light version of kerosene. So as you can see, based here on the technical diagram, there is methane that is fed into the engine as well as liquid oxygen. It is combined together to pull that thrust. And so that's the difference between Falcon 9's Merlin engine and the Raptor engine. There's probably a lot of other technical differences, those that, I'm not completely familiar with, but at the high level, it uses methane and liquid oxygen to combine together to form that propellant.
Right. And that combination I heard you won't really see like a orange blue flames. It'll be more clear. So it would be great if they launch at, 6-ish in the morning. You would be able to see that flare a lot better than the day.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why they probably chose 6 o'clock in the morning for that particular reason is to look at the
Yeah,
flare, I
for the
mean,
theater effect, right?
yeah, because otherwise, we're going to see what we saw when the Starship, what was it that the first section launched, which was a very small little flame. I mean, you didn't even get to see a whole lot of it. So,
Right.
you know,
But also that it only has the Starship itself only has three boosters. I mean, three rocket engines underneath
right, right. So
compared to the Super Heavy.
right. Well, actually, the first booster has the 33, and then the
Hmm.
the the Starship that is stacked onto the first booster has the three.
Hmm.
So theoretically, there's 36 engines on board in total.
Are the engines on Starship also the Raptor 2 engines?
I think they're going to be the Raptor 2 engines. Maybe the 33 may be the Raptor 2s and the top 3 may be just Raptors. I don't know exactly if they're all Raptor 2s or it's a combination of Raptor 2s and Raptor 1s.
And they'd have to be. It's the latest, up to date design
Right.
that he's working on.
Right.
And I hear that there's already a newer revised version of the Raptor 2 that's
Right.
even more efficient.
Right.
But I also heard I was reading some of the, I don't know if it's from the FAA, that they also put out some restrictions for boats. Remember we were talking about that the other day. Uh,
Yes.
that I think it's a is it a 300-mile radius?
Yes, one of the things that they're concerned about is if, for God forbid, the rocket is to explode in what they deem to be low uh, altitude, there is a possibility of a shock wave. And the shock wave is stronger than what was felt when the atomic bombs were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So on Friday, when I went to that get together with some of the other podcasters, they talked about that shock wave and the things that people may have to do to kind of avoid. Apparently, they've got to kind of do drill exercises like when they did like back in the 50s, when a
Uh-huh.
nuclear attack where you've got to like bend over and you've got to cover your ears because apparently it messes with your ears. So for anybody out there being on a boat, they're going to have to be very careful. I had planned to be out on a boat, but I had planned to be out there on the 20th, which was on a Thursday. Uh, I was able to get a friend of mine to get a boat, but unfortunately, the launch schedule was pushed up, so it's on the 17th. So my cruise ship is not happening anymore. So
Wow. Well, I also read, talking about those waves. I read somewhere there on the warnings for the boats out there that it kind of causes because of the amount of thrust from all 33 engines, after a few seconds into the launch, it's going to start moving over the water, but it's still going to be close enough to the surface of the water that it will kind of cause a wave and kind of like a, what do you call it, like a tide.
yeah,
The So they that's why they're giving that part of that warning people not to get too close, because the the tide, it's kind of like tidal wave effects that it will cause, that will cause could cause boats to go under.
yeah. Well, that's one of the things. I don't know if you've ever been out there, but I used to do a lot of jet skiing back in my younger years. And one of the
Uh-huh.
things that you notice right off the bat when you do any kind of boating is that the left side of the bay versus the right side of the bay, there's a difference in wave activity. It's much more rougher, on the right side
Yeah.
typically than it is on the left side. So by its very nature, it's rough, on the right side. But then, the winds here have been kicking up since early this morning, and so there's I don't know how choppy it's going to be out there. It could be pretty choppy.
Yeah.
So anybody out there on a boat, maybe having a little bit of a rough ride. But yeah, I heard that yes, there is like a shock wave or that causes a ripple in the water. So I'm not
Yeah, a
necessarily
lot of turbulence in the water. So
yeah.
I would not risk being on a boat, no matter how big it is. You don't want to be in that area. Not with
Well,
33 Raptor engines.
yeah, I know. I
Even
was
though they're not going to be at full throttle, they say, but still, it's not worth taking the risk for that.
No, no, not at all. And I've always liked to be in command of the watercraft. I've never been a passenger on a watercraft except when I went
Right.
on a cruise ship. But other than that, I like to be in control of the wheel. And so I was kind of skeptical still whether I was going to be out there or not. So I'm kind of glad that I'm not going to be on the boat. So, but
Right. And hopefully we don't get someone that some guy on, maybe a shrimper, or some tourist that came down here with his boat and might say he didn't know about the restrictions, and cause a scrub or a delay. That would really,
Well, yeah, you and I've talked about it over the last few weeks. Our biggest concern probably wasn't the FAA, but it was, all these Sierra Club members that have been causing a ruckus. We've got them joining with this native Indian tribe. And by the way, they're not even a real Indian tribe, but they've been making some noise saying that that whole area is sacred native land for whatever reason. You know, I've never heard of the tribe. I mean, I know that we used to have a tribe
And
of head hunting. I mean, we had headhunters back, when Hernando Cortes first arrived from Spain. They were called the Caracawas, and they actually ate people, you know. But I had never heard of this other Indian tribe. But these days everybody wants to be special. So, they've been out there, filing all kinds of court injunctions. They even had one of their members, I call her the spray paint bandit. She was the one that spray painted the mural down in downtown Brownsville because she was against SpaceX. And they had a protest a few weeks ago over at City Plaza. Same bullshit like always. SpaceX this and SpaceX that, and it's gotten them nowhere. Just arrested. You know. But my concern, as I told you, is somebody going over there and blocking the area down in Boca Chica, down in Boca Chica. Of course, I'd be
yeah, well,
tossed.
I mean, for people that are not sure,
Yeah.
I think that Boca Chica will be blocked off all the way from the Indiana Avenue 511 and Boca Chica intersection.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that you don't drive down to the checkpoint and find out that it's closed. I mean, that would cause major backups. That's you don't want to have a mile of traffic, everyone trying to turn around, make a U-turn on a one-way road.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of turning back, one of the things that I don't know if you're aware of, but the Cameron County Parks and Recreation Department has basically put a notice out that tonight at Isla Blanca Park, it's going to close at 9 p.m. Anybody that is there is going to be asked to leave. And the park's not going to open till 4 a.m. tomorrow. So if anybody thought that they were going to get a head start and try to camp out at the beach, surprise, surprise, you're going to get kicked out. Um, and you won't be able to come back in until 4 o'clock in the morning. So if anybody's planning to be out there, there's a curfew at 9 p.m. If you want to come back, you got to be there by 4 o'clock in the morning at Isla Blanca. It is $12, by the way, to get in. It's $12 in cash. They do not accept credit cards or debit cards, so you need to bring cash in order to get a front seat view at Isla Blanca. Now, the amphitheater is reserved, but that is reserved for special dignitaries and SpaceX employees. So if you're not one of those, if you're not one of the orange ticket holders, the elites, or SpaceX employees, you're not going to be able to watch that there in the amphitheater. You'll have to camp out with the commoners and the ogres out on the beach and on the jets.
And for those that do want to go to Playa Bagdad in Matamoros, in Mexico, um, it is what it'll cost you $5 in cash to go and come back across the international bridge.
Uh huh.
So for those that want to go, make sure you take cash. If you're hell bent on, if you have your mind made up on going to Matamoros, then make sure that you have the cash to go and come back and for whatever you might want to buy. And the same thing like Boca Chica Beach, there's no amenities out there. So you got to take, your food, your water, drinks, and there's no restrooms for about 20 miles.
That's right. So if you got to go potty, you're going to have a tough time.
Right. And so that's all I would say about the Playa Baghdad side.
Yeah.
So
Well, back to the actual flight plan. Basically, like I said, it's going to launch and then it's going to get up to orbit. And then the first stage is going to separate from the Starship module. and then it's going to make an orbit around Earth and then eventually splash down off the Hawaiian Islands. So, as I was talking to a few guys on Friday night, I asked, well, is the Starship going to sink? Are they going to have a boat out there to recover it? I hope they do. The last thing we need are the Chinese or the Russians to be lurking nearby and snatching it. So hopefully,
Right.
SpaceX has made some plans to actually snap that Starship back. I would think so, because I think they want to kind of examine, the exterior of, how well it did. I don't know how else they would how they would do that. But one of the things that we talked about is the actual section of the Starship right here. As you can see, this is the actual Starship nose cone module. Like you said earlier, it contains three Raptor engines right there. And then there is a fuel tank for the liquid oxygen, and basically there's also a payload section which is not going to be used. There was that rumor that Elon was going to send up some Starlink satellites just to make a point, but in real life this section right here is where the payload would come in. um, so this is basically what the inside of the Starship section of the of the spacecraft looks like right now, which is kind of
Right.
cool.
And I think it kind of makes sense, because it might not make it fully into orbit, and I don't think that's the plan. That's not the anticipation. So you don't want to have not even a dummy load in it because, like you said, it might sink really fast if it's heavy.
Well, the thought
So,
the thought was that they were gonna go, was gonna go up to orbit and maybe they'd be able to release something. But I think right now, I think they just want to get the thing into orbit. They'll worry about the next one.
right, and also, I think they want to practice that belly flop maneuver and test the capability of the heat shield,
Right,
the
right,
tile, the heat tiles that they got on it.
right. Yeah,
But
yeah.
before you go any further, what about the booster? What, because I've heard a lot of rumors about that. Some say that they will attempt a uh, a landing on the super heavy and have chopsticks catch it.
Well,
And
that
then I've
was
heard others that say it's going to be a splashdown 20 miles off the coast.
Yeah, I've heard both stories. There was that first original rumor that, the booster was going to come back and land here at Boca Chica. They were basically going to land it right on the launch pad, and the chopsticks were going to snatch it and land it. There's actually a video. I don't have it here in front of me, but there's a video on Wikipedia that actually shows the animation of how the chopsticks would actually grab that booster. But it would have been super cool, or it would be super cool for it to actually land. But the last story that I heard was that they were gonna basically let it do a water kind of landing uh, in the Gulf
Yeah, 'cause,
somewhere.
you don't want it to damage the launch pad, on the first try, and then we won't have
Mm-hmm.
chopsticks ready to go again. So, they got to give it some time for more testing. But the Starship itself, it has successfully landed. What was it? Two out of the three
Right, right, right,
in the past couple of years.
right.
So
Yeah,
the first one blew up. It didn't get the chance to stand up properly, and then I think, was it the second one that it landed successfully, but then a fire got out of control and it blew up after it landed.
right. Yeah,
And the third try did successfully land. That was a really good one.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
Starship already that we know of, it already has they've got it to where they can land it successfully.
yeah,
Super Heavy, it hasn't, as far as I know, it hasn't been tested yet.
right. Yeah, I
It
could.
hasn't been attempted.
I mean, I could see where they wouldn't want to damage the the launch pad.
No, no,
I
not
mean,
yet,
I
not yet.
I mean, even the folks in Florida, were over there all, all kind of, cynical and, very, very wheezy about Starship, launching from one of those glorified launch pads that they've got over there. They've talked about that. Oh, it could damage things and stuff like that. Well, whatever.
Right.
But I can understand. I mean, it takes months to uh, repair this thing. I mean, look at what they did when they did the last, what was it? Was it a wet dress rehearsal? I don't know what the heck they did a couple of months ago back in February, and I don't know what happened to the concrete here at the launch pad, but it took them
Right
about a
after
month and
the
a
last
half.
static fire.
Yeah, the last static fire, so you definitely don't want to screw up the launch pad, that's for sure. You know.
Right,
But one of the things that is kind of amazing and it shocks me is the lack of interest locally. You and I've talked about that. There's a few other people that mentions. I don't know why the area down here doesn't seem to get with the program and understand why this is such a big deal. It's something that really is kind of annoying. But one of the things I think that people don't understand, this is not just about Elon, launching rockets, and spending his own money. I mean, there's a reason why we're doing this, and a lot of people here in Brownsville either don't understand, don't want to understand, or have no clue. But basically, what it boils down to is the work here that's done at Boca Chica is critical to the return of our astronauts back to the moon. The SLS system that is going to be launched is not going to land on the moon. Unlike the Apollo, that had the lunar lander, on the Saturn V, the SLS will contain no lunar lander. The lander will be built by SpaceX, and it is based on Starship. So the work here at Boca Chica is critical to our return back to the moon. There will be no spider lander. It will be a starship that will be orbiting the moon. And when the SLS rocket launches with the Orion spacecraft will dock onto the Starship landing rocket, and it is the landing rocket that is going to land on the moon, and it is the Starship landing rocket that is going to take off from the moon and connect back to the orbiting Orion space capsule. So, if it didn't dawn on people why this is a big deal, it should, because it is critical. It is an active component to the SLS system. A lot of people don't realize. I mean,
right,
why do you think people just don't get with the program? I mean, there just seems to be a lack of
right.
interest for whatever reason.
It is a big deal. I mean, and we got to remember that we don't have a space shuttle anymore.
Right,
Starship is not only a replacement but an upgrade if successful. And even if this first test flight goes wrong and it blows up, it's not the end.
right.
It is research and development, and uh, you can tell that Elon is not a quitter,
No,
and he's gonna learn from if if it blows up or not. I think what he wants to do is he wants it to blow up. He wants to stress test it to know its limit, right?
right. Yeah,
So it has more payload capacity than the space shuttle, correct?
correct. Yeah,
So it is a big deal, and you're right. There seems to be this anemic feeling in Brownsville and in Texas um, towards anything aerospace related, and that needs to change.
Yeah.
That 5 year license that was just granted by the FAA for Starbase, I think that is sending needs it needs to be a clear message for Brownsville that he is here
This,
for real business now,
yeah.
and that includes tourism.
Yeah.
That means that he's planning on having, multiple launches per week. That is going to bring a lot of tourists here. I mean, I imagine right now what SPI looks like.
Yeah.
I've seen all day, all week, left and right, hundreds of people posting on Facebook that they're on their way from all parts, people driving, flying in. I mean, I imagine it's chaos right now in SPI.
Oh, it
And,
is.
and it's only going to get better. I mean, right now, for most people that might ask, there is not an official um, shuttle service or like a tourist guide to take people, bus people over to Starbase,
Right.
and there's very limited access to Starbase, and really I think they should close off all of those access roads and
Right.
just allow you to take Boca Chica to the beach and back.
Right. Right.
Because it only takes one accident to, I mean, make things go south really fast. So I
Yeah.
think they should just shut off those access.
Well, I think personally, I think they need to, and I know it's difficult because of the way the launch pad is right now in Starbase, but it is difficult to restrict access. But I think as we get past tomorrow, and they start prototyping more, there's gonna have to be some restriction. I mean, you heard about that guy that tried to break into SpaceX a few
Yeah,
weeks ago, and I just think they're gonna have to do it. I mean, as hard as it is, they're gonna have to do it. And quite honestly, now that they know they've got a license for 5 years, maybe it is time to go ask Elon for uh, an alternative route, to get to and from that area, you know. Um, maybe
right.
an
We
alternate
need to
road.
get our Brownsville Welcome Center off on Price Road and the Expressway. We need to get that up and running,
Yeah,
looking presentable.
yeah, yeah,
Um, the city needs to get on board. The school districts, they need to stop, giving us, how do they say that? Turn a blind eye.
right,
You know, we don't have right now any magnet programs that are aerospace themed whatsoever that I'm aware of in the public school sector,
right.
and that needs to change
Yeah,
really
I mean,
quickly.
I was really, I was talking to some of those guys, you know some of those guys yourself, and everybody was saying the same thing. They were so surprised that the school districts just didn't even plan for a possible field trip. I remember when I was back in school, we had field trips. We'd go to different places, for field trips, and now it seems like they don't even want to do that. And I mean, what better field trip could you plan for than a than a launch like this? I mean, if this isn't STEM, I don't know what is STEM. At this point. But it seems like
Yeah,
they
I mean,
didn't
this
plan
is
for it.
not only this is going to be history in the making for Brownsville, but for the United States, for Texas, uh, the biggest rocket ever ever known to mankind.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal,
Right.
and the school districts seem to, they're more interested in performing arts related stuff.
Yeah, they're more concerned about about planning for the next Charo days than something like this. I mean, I'm not criticizing Charo days, but I think that they need to step up to the plate and realize that we've got STEM education right in front of us. And if this doesn't, convince people that, we need to do some focus on STEM, I mean, I don't know what will, but I mean, we're going to see it tomorrow, whether it's successful or not. We are going to see a launch tomorrow from Boca Chica. There's just no doubt that it's going to happen. For those of for those that kept on saying, "No, okay, Elon can take his money and go leave tomorrow." Well, guess what? It's
Yeah,
not going to
and
happen.
Elon also said, there's always the Cape.
Well, see,
So,
he did say there was always the Cape, but the only way they would go to the Cape now is if you know the people here locally just didn't step it up. You know,
hmm
so. Um, but it'll be interesting, to see what happens tomorrow. But man, I tell you, look at those live cams, man. We did a pretty good job, didn't we?
yeah, that is really awesome. It took time to set up, like Ogre Cam to get it right, get the angle right, try to figure out, make sure that uh, the make sure that you're pointing in the right direction, right? I mean, that's
Right.
and make sure that you have a clear picture and the networking and getting everything set up. That 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 is a lot of work on short notice.
Yeah. I don't have the comments on tonight, obviously, because I didn't want the Sierra clubs to start popping, hate messages over the the comments. They're not. I'm not one of their best friends, but one of the users asked whether anybody knew whether a charter school like IDEA was actually planning field trips. I don't think so. I don't think they
Um,
even did. You know,
no, my daughter is in the 11th grade, and I was begging her to talk to her teachers to see if they were, if she can find out if they're planning a field trip, or maybe she could inspire them
right?
to because she had a project not too long ago, and it was aerospace themed, and they a lot of teachers were very wow, they were inspired by it. So
Yeah.
I was hoping that that would open their open their hearts to be able to say, you know what, let's get kids on a bus and let's go to SBI. But no, as
You
far as
know,
I know,
it's
none
kind
of
of
the schools are.
it's kind of funny because one time, well, when I did my science project in school, I was like in eighth grade or something. And my science project was building a model rocket, which I did. I built the model rocket. Uh, and basically, it was kind of stupid in a way because I strapped on a thermometer, trying to test for different temperatures, as the thing went up. But the thing that was kind of funny about it is I had no way of collecting any data, so I don't know how I managed to pull that science project. The funny part about it is I actually went to the city. I actually went to the city division of the science project. I think that I probably did because it was actually a model rocket and nobody had done one, and maybe they thought it was cool to submit it into the city division. But how I made it out of the school, I have no idea. But even that today, I don't hear too many things about science projects. uh
No, no. The only one there is one in Texas. That they sent the science experiment. I don't know. It was a school out of Houston,
yeah.
and they sent up a I think they call them their science. What I forgot the terminology they use, but basically it's a experiment that the high school got involved, and they sent it on the previous Artemis launch,
Right.
the Artemis lunar mission,
Uh-huh.
and there's a whole bunch of schools that sent up they call them science modules. There you go.
Yeah.
And one of them was a school out of Houston. They sent up this robotic arm that has a camera and it has the ability to clean its own lens.
Wow.
And yes, because the space station has some needs, and they give those opportunities to the schools to be able to join in on this new technology. And when I heard that it was a school from Houston, I was like, wow, I wish the Valley could join in on this,
Right. Yeah.
but hey, maybe in the near future we'll hopefully the schools will get on board, right?
Well, like I said, tomorrow's a big deal. If this doesn't convince everybody that we're here for the long haul, I don't know what will. But definitely after tomorrow, I think that a lot of the schools around here need to step it up and start focusing on STEM. And not only STEM,
Right.
but, not only aerospace, but also robotics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a golden opportunity for us. I don't know where the 20 million that Elon donated to the school district has gone, or to the school districts. I was corrected earlier this week that it was not 20 million to BISD, but 20 million in general to BISD and a few other schools. But regardless what the amount was, man,
Right.
they need to use that money for what it was meant for, and it's to further STEM education. Actually, somebody is asking what STEM is. Can you explain it to them? What STEM is, Famito?
Is it an acronym?
It is.
I'm not
It's
really too
science.
familiar.
It's science,
I know that's
technology.
very similar to the magnet programs that
It
schools have.
is. It's science, technology, engineering, and I think medicine. I think that's what the four things it stands for. So science,
Uh-huh.
technology, engineering, and I believe the last one is medicine. So, STEM education involves, those four components. I mean, obviously, a lot of people don't realize that, even medicine is a big deal, in when it comes to space. They do a lot of experiments up there with different types of, viruses and,
Yes, they're
drugs.
testing. They have science modules that they're testing in at the International Space Station.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they've. Hey, did you see that on Ogre Cam? Something, something flew right in front of us. Wow,
Oh,
we're.
might have been an owl.
It could have been an owl. Yeah, I just saw it fly by.
God forbid that, right now there's a lot of seagulls and those Canadian geese, and those things are big.
Yeah,
And I hope they don't decide to drop something pleasant on the camera lens, right?
I know. Not just Ogre Cam, but all the others out there that are installed. I mean, imagine here you are, you're getting ready for the launch. The launch is almost to go, and then wham, a bird drops a bird dropping on the lens. That would be kind
Oh
of
man,
funny.
that would be really bad.
Somebody's saying that there could be a lot of bats. I said, well, I don't know. I've only seen one bat in my lifetime here at the house, but
Yeah,
it was.
there are some, but they're not the vampire blood sucking bats. I think they're called fruit bats.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He says,
I was talking to my family the other day, and I was telling them, imagine if we had a Starship replica, maybe not as big, but something close to it, but
yeah,
in the Sunrise Mall.
yeah,
Like how they have some high dome areas like by the food court, um, where the mall splits into three areas. There's like a dome type section in the middle.
right.
It would be really cool if we had a Starship replica there.
I know. Well, Elon had promised to send one over to the airport, but I don't know what happened. We ended up getting a piece of a tail fin and the other section that I guess is tied to to it is the heat shield tiles. So there's actually something at the airport right now in front of the airport terminal where it's got one section is the flap or whatever it is, the flap wing,
Uh-huh.
and the other section is the other section with the heat tiles. So um, that's what we got from them. But the word was that they were going to provide a replica or a full scale replica of an actual starship. I hope they still do that. I think that would be appropriate there because obviously, those people land at that airport, on the way to Starbase. So, but yeah, you're
Yeah, that would
right.
be really cool.
Even at the mall, even at the mall, that would be super. I definitely don't want to see one downtown. That's for sure. You know.
No, not downtown. And shout out to Pat Umada for his innovative way of thinking. You did a podcast with him not too long ago as he's running for mayor. Um, that he mentioned the idea of having an aerospace themed museum
Right.
um, that will be international. Right on the border,
Right.
and we could put one of those starship replicas there. That would be awesome. Talk about bringing in tourism and starting up marketing. You see, because we can't say that we have a marketing issue because it's non-existent. There's a lack of marketing here in Brownsville.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's not about you know it just doesn't exist. I mean, we're too busy, worried about all kinds of other things, and right now this is the biggest thing on the planet. And so we should be out there touting, what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, um, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Brownsville. And, you know, everybody should be pretty proud of the fact that we got to this point, despite, all the
Right,
stumbling blocks and all the naysaying and all the negativity associated. I mean, yeah, I mean, Elon's not perfect. I mean, we all know that. He's not perfect, but none of us are perfect. You know, um,
right.
it's
But
history in
but
the
thank
making.
thanks to Elon Musk and Starbase here in Brownsville, um, through COVID, uh, you talked to Jessica and she threw out to Jessica Tetro not too long ago, and she threw out some numbers, talking about how Brownsville was able to truck keep trucking through COVID and the pandemic, and are the numbers for Brownsville in regards to our local economics here and the unemployment rate was Brownsville was stayed in pretty good shape compared to the surrounding cities, the Rio Grande Valley as a whole. We were looking better, like you said, even better than McAllen.
Right, right.
So shout out to Elon Musk and Starbase for that,
Yeah,
for keeping us on top.
yeah.
And that's just the beginning.
Yep.
Now that we have the 5-year license, we're looking at a ramp up in production pretty soon.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, once this launch happens tomorrow and they collect all the telemetry data and they recover those vehicles, I mean, I anticipate that there's going to be a ramp up in research, development, and manufacturing of these rockets because, they've got, I mean, Elon has plans to reach the moon by 2024. Uh, you know, because that is their first thing that they've got to accomplish is to get that lunar lander ready for the SLS component. So uh, it'll be interesting. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how we how we transition into that. I mean, now this is
Right,
just not research and development, but we're talking manufacturing here. And like I've always said, I can envision a point where we will be a full scale manufacturer here in Brownsville Those rockets can be shipped over the ocean right here from the port, even if it means they launch out of Florida, but we can build them and we can ship them on a consistent basis, back and forth and back and forth. I don't see a problem with that. But then again, you never know. Maybe we will convert eventually into commercial one day. I mean, now
I
anything
I
is
I I
possible.
really do hope so, and I think there is a high chance that it might happen.
Yeah.
Speaking of expansion and ramping up production, um, Elon Musk recently purchased more land, right? Where the old location of the Massey's gun range,
Yep.
he purchased that plot of land, and what type of warehouses is he building there?
The last thing I heard was that it was going to be a storage area for the I guess the fuel. I don't know. I haven't been out there in a while, so
But
I don't know. I don't
I
know.
heard he's building another manufacturing another tall building
Oh, really?
where they're yes they're they're I think they said they're building more of the Starship pieces and they're stacking them and testing for they're doing cryogenic tests there.
Wow.
Which is they it's like a wet dress rehearsal where they load up they load up the fuel on the Starship and test it for leaks
Right.
before it rolls out to the main plant,
Right.
down the assembly line.
Right. Yeah, well, how far is Massey's from the main facility?
I think it's about maybe a mile or two.
Uh-huh.
It's not that far 'cause you have to go past the checkpoint area.
Right.
So I know that Massey's is closer to the launch pad than it is to the checkpoint.
Right. Right. Well, it'll be interesting to
You know,
see, you know, and how big.
which by the way, for people that don't know, when you're going to Starbase when it is open, you don't have to stop at the checkpoint on the way to Starbase, which is at the beach. You have to stop on the way out. So make sure that you have your credentials with you.
Okay. All right. So you don't have
So
to stop by at the checkpoint, or you do?
not on the way to the beach. You have to
Oh.
stop on the way back to town from the beach.
Ah. Okay. All right. So for those that need extra
So make sure you
documentation.
have your documents because they will ask you, for your citizenship documents
Right.
or resident documentation.
Yep. Yep. Well, it looks like everything's a go. I'll be waking up pretty early tomorrow morning. I think it'll be about 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm gonna be up to get ready for this launch. I think you're gonna wake up early tomorrow too. Um, you know,
So
uh,
we're looking at what right now the projected launch time is 6:15 a.m.
yes, 6:15 a.m. I know there was a few other Brownsville websites out there claiming that it was 7 o'clock, but that was possibly because they took the information from a YouTuber that wasn't aware that the launch was actually at 6:15 uh, a.m. Central Time. Now, as they may say 6:15, but they can have 10-15 minute delay after the scheduled time, or it could be
Right.
an hour or two. So I anticipate delays, but we've got our video feed ready to capture the launch tomorrow, and we're gonna start possibly around 6 o'clock, in the morning, 15 minutes earlier. So that's
All
the
right. I
plan.
really do hope it is tomorrow morning, and but it can be either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday.
Right, right. Yeah,
those are right now the established no-fly zone. Everything is set up for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
right, right. Yeah. Yep, that's hopefully, like I said, hopefully it happens tomorrow, but we'll be here every day this week until it happens. So,
Right.
um,
So and there's also some rumors from other people that are just not up to date, that there's some that still think that it's going to be on 420.
yeah, yeah, I
And
know.
I hope they don't go to bed tonight thinking that it's going to be on 420, which is Thursday.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're going to wake up in the morning around 8, 9 a.m. and
There's going to be nothing on
there's
the
going to be
launch pad.
nothing on the on the launch pad.
Well, that's exactly why I actually corrected the individual earlier, this evening. I said, "Hey man," I said, "I don't know where you're getting your information, but that launch is happening at 6:15. You're telling your followers that it's going to be at 7. The last thing you want is your followers to wake up and there is nothing on the launch pad because it's already circling around orbit and maybe landed." So, that 615 is coming directly from SpaceX. It's not something that I cooked up or that I snatched from any of the other sites. It's exactly coming from the horse's mouth. That's 615 Central uh, Central Time, Central Daylight Time. So that's the
All right.
plan.
So
So
so again, the park there at Isla Blanca is going to open at 4 a.m. Imagine that. Do they usually open at that time, or this is
no,
specifically for the launch?
no, this is specifically for the launch. I think they don't open normally till around 7. Normally,
7 or 8,
yeah.
8 a.m.
Yeah, but they've got to get the elites and the dignitaries and the orange ticket holders in there, so that's important, right? And then of course they've got to get the SpaceX employees in there, and then once those
Right.
those guys are there, then they've got to let everybody else. So
I imagine everybody that has a reservation for the amphitheater, they're probably already there at the island. Because
oh
I,
yeah,
I imagine that at 4 a.m. that bridge, the bridge to Padre Island is gonna be backed up for hours.
yeah, yeah. One of the
So,
users just said they were just coming back from SPI and they were closing Isla Blanca Park already.
mhm.
So, you know, I had plans. I was thinking, well, maybe I should camp out there, right? Well, it's a good thing I didn't go forward with those plans. I would have been up the creek.
Well, I think I read that they weren't kicking out the people that um have a spot rented out.
Right.
Only the visitors or people that were
Right.
planning to
The
camp out there.
the people that have a spot in the RV park, they're going to be allowed back and forth. Okay. But
Yeah,
anybody else, mm, they're not going to be allowed to stay. Now,
to camp out
to
to
camp
to
out.
camp out there overnight.
Now, I hope you know how it is when you go down to Isla Blanca Park. They only have typically they may have I think they have what 2 or 3 toll booths, and they never have all three open. It's always one, and usually they have the slowest guy working it. So I'm hoping that for tomorrow, they at least have all the toll booths open so that they can get people in and out quickly. But I'm not going to hold my breath, on that one. So
Yeah, so people, remember, if you're going to Padre Island, make sure you go early. Make sure that you have plenty of cash,
mm-hmm.
and you probably want to fill up your tank in town before you head out there. And the same thing applies for if you're going to the Mexican side. Fuel up here, make sure you have cash and food, water. It's going to be pretty hot out there, so you want to make sure you stay hydrated.
And
And
toiletries. Let's not forget toiletries because those bathrooms
toiletry,
don't have any of that.
right?
Take
And
toilet
don't forget your
paper.
chargers, your phone chargers.
Right. You gotta have toilet paper. You gotta have soap because none of that exists in those bathrooms. I'll tell you that. That's for sure. So
Right. And for any viewers, Danny, if you want to throw out the welcome, like can they post tomorrow, you know, post pictures in the comments
yes, they
of
can.
what
They can.
I don't know what are the limitations? Can they post like a 10-minute clip of what they see there on the island?
Well, I think on Brownsville Tech Live, I think anybody is allowed to post. As long as it's decent postings. I don't think there's any restrictions. So if there's people out there they're capturing video, feel free to post that on Brownsville Tech Live, and we definitely will host it. Um, you know,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
pictures of what it looks like, the crowds out there.
Yeah,
Um, so for the viewers can see what we can have kind of like boots on the ground all over Brownsville.
right, right, absolutely. Alrighty. Well, it's we've gone about an hour and 10 minutes. I know that you've got a long day tomorrow, so do I. But everybody, this was our special edition of Brownsville Tech Live. It was our Starship pre-launch party, our virtual party, and basically we have introduced some new technology here with regards to our virtual live cams. Not only on South Padre, but in Port Isabel, and of course, right here in the swamps of Brownsville, Texas. So, but
I might not sleep. I mean, I'm getting, jittery and I might not be able to sleep. I might just get an
yeah,
hour nap and be up early.
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. With all the excitement, I was thinking I'm gonna put double alarms so that I don't sleep in. I want to make sure I catch the
Yeah.
launch because it takes me a while to get everything set up, to start streaming, and so I just need to make sure that I'm up at least early to get everything set up. So
So for the viewers, for them to know, at what time are you going to start the live stream?
it's gonna start at 6 a.m. Central Time. And basically, after the show here, I'm gonna put out a event invitation. So that event will be a live stream directly using SpaceX's video feed. It's not going to be. Uh,
Okay.
we're going to have feeds, but the main screen is going to be coming from a SpaceX video feed, which is high quality, and I think that one's guaranteed not to be affected by bird droppings or anything like that. So we'll start it at
So
6 a.m.
unless there's some news that they might launch earlier, right? Maybe 5 a.m. So
Right. Right. If for
we
some
gotta
reason
stay.
they launch later, we'll know pretty quickly and we'll just reschedule as the launch gets rescheduled. But so far,
Or sooner, like I say,
or
maybe
sooner.
5 a.m. instead of 6 a.m.
Right. Right. Yeah. So,
So a quick overview of what should we expect tomorrow to see. Um, so the first 3 minutes will be the launch of what you'll see is the super heavy booster
right.
is gonna take Starship up for the first initial 3 minutes, and after the 3 minutes, um, super heavy will already have spent its fuel, and then it will detach,
Correct.
and Starship will turn on its rocket boosters and continue pushing towards. But I don't know if will it reach max Q with the super heavy still attached.
Yes. Yes, it will reach max Q with intact, and then after max Q, there will be a point of main stage
A power
separation.
down. It'll
Yeah.
power down,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
and then after that, it'll continue pushing. uh, continue with Super Heavy until its fuel is spent. Then it'll detach, and the next stage will be Starship firing up its engines and continue into orbital insertion.
Right. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see what the onboard cameras on the rocket are going to show. And the only place you can get those is through a site that is actually live feeding directly from a SpaceX video feed, like we will be doing tomorrow morning. So it'll be interesting to see how many cameras are actually attached to the rocket to actually watch it as it's going through all of its
And
stages.
and what we know of so far is that all 33 Raptor engines should fire up
They
on
sh- they
on
should
launch.
they should fire up, but Elon did say a few weeks ago that if 31 fire, that's good enough to get into orbit. So,
Yes, and that's what we had with the static fire couple months ago with it was only Super Heavy, not with Starship stacked over it, but the flame, I mean, did you see the flame that that thing put out?
yeah,
Just Super Heavy with 31 engines. I mean, wow, it was quite a sight to see. But it was only what 10 seconds.
right, right. Yeah. It
So
was incredible.
that's kind of something like what we should expect to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, alrighty. Well, we're going to go ahead and close out the show. Ramiro, we'll be talking tomorrow, and let's see what happens tomorrow at 6 a.m. Once again, everybody, this is the conclusion of our virtual party. The launch is scheduled for 6 a.m. tomorrow Central Time. For those of you that are planning to head out to Isla Blanca, you need to be there by 4 o'clock in the morning so that you can secure your spot. And for anybody else, you can watch the launch here on Brownsville Tech Live starting at 6 a.m. Everybody, thank you
Woohoo!
for watching and have a good night.
All right. Go Elon, go Starship.
All right, man. We're good. We did good.
How many viewers you had on?
Not maybe about 4 or 5, but you know how that goes. It increases as the night goes on, so I'm not really
Yeah.
concerned about it. You know, I don't typically have a whole lot of